Hello. Today we're going to learn a little bit about writing our lesson plan. So I have a sample lesson plan here for you, and I will walk you through this process in small steps. So what you're looking at here is the Luzerne County Community College ECE lesson plan template. This can be found, a blank template as well as the sample lesson can be found in your lesson plan folder on Learn. So the lesson plan basically has three parts. It will have part 1, which is general information. It will have part 2, which is your method supporting objectives. And then depending on if you teach your lesson plan in the field, you will have a part 3 where you reflect on your lesson plan in the field. So let's talk a little bit about part 1. So in the beginning, you'll have your name written here, the name of the school or the child care center that you're working in or observing in. If you are not doing this in the field and it is for an in-class assignment, you can leave that part blank. You can also leave the name of your cooperating teacher blank if this is an in-class assignment. However, if you are in the field and you are working with a teacher, you would put that teacher's name there. So part 1 is a little bit of the background information. So this is titled Thanks and No Thanks. And I put the resource where I got this information from, because it's not my lesson plan. It came from a textbook that I use in ECE 207, Child, Family, and Community. So if you took that class already, you're probably familiar with the York textbook, which is Roots and Wings. If you never took that course, you have something to look forward to. So this one is called Thanks and No Thanks. The next title, the title can be, if you're using a lesson plan that you found online, you can keep the title the same. If you are altering a lesson plan that you found or creating something from scratch, you can title it whatever you wish. For the curriculum area, you should include the main curriculum area that you are addressing. So the curriculum area that this lesson focuses on is literacy. However, because it correlates with the ECE 207 class, we also need an anti-bias education goal. So this lesson plan, while it focuses on literacy development, it also focuses on goal 4, which is each child will demonstrate empowerment and the skills to act with others or alone against prejudice and or discriminatory actions. So we're going to use the skill of literacy as a vehicle to access that anti-bias education goal about empowerment. The group description will be, you can again, if this is for a class assignment, you can create this to be whatever you wish. I said this is designed for about 20 to 30 fourth graders, and we'll be working in small groups. So that kind of gives me a heads up about what to expect when I go through and read your lesson plan. You can prepare your lesson plan in this class for toddlers, for preschoolers, for if you're in the ECE program, anywhere up to grade 4 would be considered appropriate. If you are not in the ECE program, you can choose a grade level of that is meaningful to you. You can do it as whole class, or you can do it in small groups. That doesn't matter. The next section that you'll look towards is the learning environment. So here I said I'm going to be in the classroom. I'm going to need about 20 to 30 minutes repeated over several days. So this isn't going to get done necessarily in one shot, is what I'm basically telling the person looking at this lesson. It's not going to be a one and done in 20 minutes, that we're going to have to kind of keep coming back and revisiting this lesson plan over a couple days. And it's okay to be a little vague like that, because again, if you are creating this for fictitious students, you know, we don't know how long it will take. If you're going to be in the classroom over several days and you're teaching this in the classroom with your cooperating teacher, you would have to check with your teacher if you have more than one chance to teach this with them. For the materials needed, here you're going to list everything that you will need for your lesson plan. So you need to be really kind of proactive. And the reason we have this here is that when you're a teacher, the materials don't just fall out of the sky and into your lap. You know, you have to think about what it is you want to teach. And then sometimes, sadly, in the real world, we're limited. You know, like, oh, I would love to teach that lesson plan that way, but I simply don't have access to that type of material. So it helps keep us realistic, and it helps us be better planners. So the same is true when you're going into the classroom to teach. You don't just walk in and ask your teacher, okay, well, where's all this stuff? You know, and just assume that she'll have everything or he'll have everything prepared for you. You need to be proactive and make sure that you have all the materials. And that's very true when you're in practicum or when you're in your student teaching experience at your next school. You'll need to be proactive and get all your materials together. So for this class, or for this lesson plan rather, we're going to need access to traditional classroom materials and resources like paper pencils and things like that. Educational resource catalogs. So as a teacher, you get a lot of mail order catalogs to buy products for your classroom. So we're going to be saving those and using them in this lesson plan. And then I'm going to need chart paper or markers. Another thing that teachers need to think about is advanced preparation. So what do you have to have done? Not only what materials do you have to gather ahead of time, but what do you have to do ahead of time to make sure that this lesson plan is ready to go? So if you're planning on teaching this third period or at 11:30 on a Wednesday, you can't just start to prepare your materials at 11:25. You might have to do it the weekend before or the night before. On your plan period before school. You have to get this done ahead of time. So I'm going to review the material that I already have in my room, and I'm going to gather biased materials to examine. So I'm going to make sure that I have materials that do show biases in order for me to meet my anti-bias goal for this lesson plan. So you would list there what you need to have done. If you really don't need to have anything done ahead of time, then that's fine. But if you need to gather supplies or materials or create little packets for children or put something together or ready the room, you have to think ahead and make sure you factor in time when you can do that. The last thing I'll talk about in this video is the prerequisite skills. So the prerequisite skills, it stems from what you're going to pick as your learning objectives. And your learning objectives is what will the child learn and be able to do as a result of this learning experience. So once you have that squared away, you've clearly articulated what you expect the student to know and be able to do at the end of this lesson, then you have to kind of back the truck up, as I like to say, and say, well, what are the underlying skills that need to be present in order for this learning to happen? So in other words, what must that child be able to do? If I expect this, if I expect A, what has to come first? This is important to do for any class and any student, but particularly important for inclusion classes. Because when you start to say, oh, well, okay, I see what I can do this, but I know I've got like a handful of students who could learn this material, but not in this way. I'm going to have to modify. That's when you start to think like a teacher and you start to think about, okay, if this is my goal, I know, 15 of my students can probably work through it like this as stated, but there's going to be some who could probably get a little challenge. I might be able to push them a little bit more, and there's going to be some that I'm going to have to scaffold, that I'm going to have to support to that student, or have to support that student so that they can access this learning. And that kind of stretching is what we call differentiation. How can I take my core concept and how can I stretch it so the kids who are behind and are developing these skills can get on and participate? And then how can I kind of extend the learning for students who might need, a little enrichment or a little extension?